Imagine you are in an old, dark hallway. The air is cold and heavy. Stone walls stretch out before you, disappearing into the shadows. Your only light is a single, flickering candle. It casts long, dancing shapes on the walls. Every drip of water sounds like a footstep. Every gust of wind sounds like a whisper. You feel a presence, something watching you from just beyond the light. You tell yourself it is just your mind playing tricks. You are alone. Or are you? You hold your breath, listening to the deep silence. Suddenly, you see it at the far end of the corridor. A tall figure stands there, shrouded in black. It is a nun. But this is no ordinary sister of the cloth. Her face is pale, almost white, like bone. Her eyes are bright yellow, glowing with a malevolent light. Her habit is not clean and pressed, but old and stained with dirt and something darker. A chill runs down your spine, a cold that has nothing to do with the damp air. This is a feeling of pure, primal fear. The figure does not move, yet you feel it getting closer. This is the image that has haunted millions. It is the face of the nun. This terrifying figure, known as Valak, first appeared in the movie The Conjuring 2. It was so frightening that it earned its own spin-off film, The Nun. The movie presents a gothic horror story set in a remote Romanian monastery. It is filled with jump scares, demonic possessions, a sense of inescapable dread. The nun is a monster in holy clothing, a demon that uses faith as a mask to hide its true evil nature. It is a powerful and unforgettable image of horror. But what if I told you this was not just a creation of Hollywood screenwriters? What if the roots of this story were not found in a script, but in history? The movie opens with a chilling claim, based on a true story. This simple phrase changes everything. It takes the horror from the screen and places it into our world. It suggests that the evil we see in the film is not just fiction. It hints that somewhere, in the dusty records of the past, a real entity like this might have existed. This is the story we are here to explore. The movie The Nun takes us to 1952 Romania. The Vatican sends a priest with a haunted past and a young novitiate on the threshold of her final vows. Their mission is to investigate the mysterious suicide of a nun at the Kartsa monastery. What they find is not a simple tragedy, but a powerful demonic force. This force has taken the form of a nun to terrorize the inhabitants of the abbey. The story is a classic battle between good and evil, light and darkness. It is a roller coaster of suspense and terror, designed to keep you on the edge of your seat. For most people, the story ends when the credits roll. The lights come up and the monster is safely contained on the screen. But the claim that it is based on true events invites us to look deeper. This is not just a marketing gimmick. The creators of the Conjuring universe drew inspiration from real-life paranormal investigations, director James Wan, producers. The main characters of the series, Ed and Lorraine Warren, were actual paranormal investigators. Ed Warren, Lorraine Warren. Their case files are the foundation upon which this entire cinematic world is built. Lorraine Warren, who passed away in 2019, was a self-proclaimed clairvoyant and light trance medium. She claimed to have encountered a spectral entity that appeared as a swirling vortex with a hooded figure at its center. This entity, she said, was a deeply inhuman spirit. It was not the ghost of a nun, but something far older and more sinister. This real-life encounter, as described by Lorraine, was the seed that grew into the terrifying on-screen character of Valak, the demonic nun. The filmmakers took this core idea and built a narrative around it. So the connection is real, but it is also complex. The story is not a direct retelling of a single historical event. There was no official Vatican investigation into a demonic nun in Romania in 1952, exactly as depicted in the film. Instead, the movie is a work of fiction that weaves together different threads of inspiration. It takes the Warrens' real-life claims, mixes them with a real demon from ancient grimoires, and sets the story in a real historical location known for its own spooky legends. The result is a blend of fact and fiction. This essay is a promise. It is a promise to peel back the layers of Hollywood horror and look for the truth underneath. We will journey back in time, not just to the 1950s, but much further. We will separate the movie character from the historical demon it is named after. The name Valak is not an invention. It belongs to a very real and powerful demon described in old texts of magic and demonology. We will open these ancient books, like the famous Lesser Key of Solomon, and see what they say about this entity. We will not stop there. We will also explore the real-life accounts from Ed and Lorraine Warren. What exactly did Lorraine claim to see? What did she feel? We will look at the context of their investigations, particularly a case in England that inspired the story. This was not a haunting in Romania, but in a quiet London suburb. The entity they claimed to encounter there was not a nun, but something they believed was truly demonic. It is this core experience that the filmmakers took and transformed into the iconic villain we know today. Our goal is to understand how a story like this comes to be. It is a process of creative alchemy. It starts with a grain of alleged truth, a paranormal investigator's experience. Then it is mixed with historical mythology, the demon Valak from old spellbooks. Finally, it is given a dramatic setting and a compelling plot. We will trace this path from a vague, hooded figure in a real haunting to the sharp, terrifying image of the demonic nun on screen. We will see how belief, fear, storytelling can combine to create a modern legend. Join us as we investigate the story behind the story. We will examine the eyewitness notes, the historical documents, the psychological elements that make the tale so potent. Was there a real nun? The answer is more complicated and fascinating than a simple yes or no. By the end of our journey, you will understand what is real, what is imagined, and why the line between them is often blurry. You will see how a simple, scary story can point to deeper truths about our own fears and the power of belief. Table of Contents, Part 2, Act 1. 1. The Real Valak, a demon from the books. 2. The Lesser Key of Solomon. 3. A Different Kind of Evil. 4. The Borley Rectory, England's most haunted house. 5. The Nun of Borley. 6. Seeds of a Story, From England to Romania. The name of the demon in the movie is Valak. This name was not invented for the film. It comes from very old books, books that deal with magic and demons. These texts are called grimoires. Think of them as textbooks for summoning and controlling spirits. One of the most famous is the 17th century Lesser Key of Solomon. This book collects earlier texts. It lists the names and descriptions of 72 demons that King Solomon supposedly subdued. The 62nd spirit on that list is Valak. The movie shows Valak as a terrifying nun, a tall, pale figure in a black habit. Its eyes glow yellow with pure evil. This image is powerful. It twists something holy into something profane. A nun should be a symbol of peace, faith. In the film, Valak is a symbol of terror, deception. The filmmakers made this choice for maximum horror. It's a brilliant piece of monster design. It taps into respect for religious figures and flips it to fear. But the old books don't describe Valak as a nun. The lore is quite different. The grimoires depict Valak as a child, a small boy with angel wings, often shown riding a fearsome two-headed dragon. Strange and unsettling, but not a nun. The grimoires say Valak has specific powers. He finds treasures hidden, lost. He reveals the location of serpents, snakes, and delivers them to the magician who summons him. He is a president of hell, commanding 30 legions of demons. That's a big difference from the movie. Historically, Valak is a treasure finder, a master of serpents, a child riding a dragon. The movie's Valak is a tormentor, a defiler of faith, a monstrous nun haunting a monastery. The film really only takes the name. Filmmakers borrowed Valak because it sounded ancient and menacing. They attached this name to a new visual creation. This is common in horror. It gives the monster a sense of history, credibility, even if the details are changed for the story. Let's look closer at the book where Valak is found. The Lesser Key of Solomon, the Ars Goetia, a guide to demonology. A grim text claimed to be King Solomon's. Legend: Solomon was given a magic ring by God. The ring let him command demons. He used them to build his temple, then trapped them in a brass vessel and cast it into a deep lake. The book is the catalog of those demons and the spells to control them. Historians disagree. Solomon didn't write it. Compiled in the mid-17th century, based on manuscripts 1 or 2 centuries earlier, it's a product of its time, a boom in magic, alchemy, and the occult. Some pursued science, others pursued mastery of spirits and demons. The Ars Goetia was a tool for the latter. Dangerous for a dangerous time. It details 72 demons. It lists their name. It lists their title in Hell's hierarchy. It lists what they look like when they appear. It describes their powers and what they can do for the magician. It gives each demon's seal or sigil. Valak or Volak is spelled out plainly. A president great and mighty. Appears like a child with angel's wings, riding a 2-headed dragon. The book's purpose, not worship, but command. Rituals are complex. Draw protective circles, use holy names, make threats to force obedience. The magician is meant to be master, the demon, servant. But a single mistake can cause madness, possession, death. That danger, meddling with ancient evils, is what filmmakers mine. Valak's name carries that dark weight. Now we must turn to Ed and Lorraine Warren. They are the real-life paranormal investigators who are the heroes of the Conjuring movies. Their work is the foundation of this entire cinematic universe. Lorraine Warren, who passed away in 2019, claimed to be a clairvoyant. She said she could see and communicate with spirits. Ed, who died in 2006, was a self-taught demonologist. Together, they investigated thousands of alleged hauntings over several decades. Their most famous cases include the Amityville Horror, the Enfield Poltergeist. It is from their experiences that the movie's Nun was born. According to Lorraine Warren, she really did encounter a demonic presence that she associated with the nun. But it did not happen in Romania, and it did not look exactly like the nun in the film. The inspiration came from a case in England. During an investigation, Lorraine said she was tormented by a dark entity. She described it not as a clear figure, but as a swirling tornado vortex with this hooded figure in the middle. It was a shadowy, indistinct form, not a person. The only feature she could make out was that it was hooded. Lorraine described the feeling this entity produced. It was a profound sense of dread, a feeling of deep, inhuman evil. She believed it was not a human ghost. Human ghosts, she said, retain some of their humanity. They might be lost, or sad, or angry. But this thing was different. It was something that had never been human. She felt it was a purely demonic force. This experience stayed with her. It was one of the most frightening encounters of her long career. She felt this entity was specifically targeting her, trying to attack her faith and her spirit. This is the emotional core of the story. The filmmakers took Lorraine's description of a hooded, inhuman entity and began to shape it. Director James Wan needed a villain for The Conjuring 2. He wanted something that would directly challenge Lorraine's Catholic faith. What could be more blasphemous than a demon disguised as a nun? It was a stroke of creative genius. They transformed the vague, swirling vortex into the sharp, terrifying image of the demonic sister. They gave Lorraine's personal demon a face, and to give it a name, they looked into the old books and found Valak. The movie, The Nun, is set in Romania at the Khersa Monastery. This is a real place with its own history. But the specific story of a ghostly nun that inspired the filmmakers likely comes from another, more famous location. It comes from England. The place was called the Borley Rectory. For many years it was known as the most haunted house in England. The stories surrounding this old Victorian mansion are legendary, and one of the most persistent ghosts said to haunt the grounds was the spirit of a nun. This tale has all the elements of a classic ghost story. The Borley Rectory was built in 1862 in a small village in Essex. It was built on the site of an older building which was part of a medieval monastery. The legends began almost as soon as the rectory was completed. The first reports of strange phenomena came from the family of the Reverend Henry Bull, who lived there in the late 19th century. They reported hearing unexplained footsteps, seeing strange lights, and feeling ghostly touches. But the most famous sighting was that of a lonely, sad-looking nun. She was often seen walking in the garden on a path that became known as the Nun's Walk. The story behind the ghost nun was tragic. Legend said that in the 13th century, a nun from a nearby convent fell in love with a monk from the Borley Monastery. They planned to elope together, but their secret plan was discovered. The punishment was brutal. The monk was executed. The nun, according to the story, was bricked up alive in the walls of the convent's cellars. Her spirit was now doomed to wander the grounds where her love was taken from her, forever searching for him. This tragic tale became the central myth of the Borley Rectory haunting. Over the years, the stories grew. Many different families lived in the rectory, and many reported strange activity. The haunting was investigated by famous paranormal researchers, including Harry Price, who wrote popular books about his findings. He documented hundreds of incidents, from stones being thrown by unseen hands to cryptic messages appearing on the walls. The story of the ghostly nun captured the public's imagination. She was sometimes seen looking mournfully from a window. Her presence was a constant, sorrowful reminder of the site's dark history. This story was well known to paranormal investigators like the Warrens. Section 5. The Nun of Borley. The ghost of the Borley nun was not described as a demonic entity. She was seen as a tragic figure. Eyewitnesses who claimed to see her described a woman in a black habit. Her face was often obscured by her wimple or by shadow. She appeared sad and lost. She would walk silently along her path in the garden, sometimes pausing as if looking for something or someone. She never seemed to interact with anyone directly. She was more like a recording, a memory replaying itself over and over again. This is very different from the malevolent, attacking nun of the movie. The identity of this nun was a subject of great debate. The legend spoke of a 13th century nun, but some researchers tried to find a historical person to match the ghost. One theory pointed to a French nun named Marie Lair. This nun supposedly left her order to marry a member of the Waldegrave family who owned the Borley Manor in the 17th century. The story goes that she was murdered by her husband and buried on the rectory grounds. This theory provided a name and a slightly different backstory for the lonely spirit. It made the ghost feel more real. The fame of the Borley Rectory reached its peak in the 1930s thanks to investigator Harry Price. His books made the haunting an international sensation. However, his methods were later criticized. Some people accused him of faking evidence to make the story more exciting. After the rectory was destroyed by a fire in 1939, Price conducted a dig in the cellars. He claimed to find the jawbone of a young woman, which he believed belonged to the murdered nun. The bone fragments were later given a Christian burial in a nearby churchyard in the hopes that it would bring peace to the restless spirit. Whether the stories were true, exaggerated, or outright hoaxes, the legend of the Borley nun was powerful. It created a strong association in the public mind between a ghostly nun and a terrifying haunting. This image became part of our cultural library of spooky things. When the creators of the Conjuring universe were looking for a way to visualize the demon attacking Lorraine Warren, the idea of a nun was not just a random choice. It drew upon a pre-existing archetype of a famous English ghost story. It took the sadness of the Borley nun and twisted it into the pure evil of Valak. Section 6, Seeds of a Story, From England to Romania. We can now see how the different pieces came together. The creation of the movie's Nun was not a single event. It was a process of mixing and matching elements from different sources. It is like cooking a dish with a recipe that pulls ingredients from all over the world. The filmmakers were the chefs. They took a name from one place. They took a visual idea from another. They took an emotional core from a third. They blended them all together to create something new and terrifying for the screen. It was a careful and deliberate act of myth-making for a modern audience. First, you have the name, Valak. It came from the 17th century grimoire, the Lesser Key of Solomon. The name sounds sinister. It carries the weight of ancient demonology. It gives the monster a pedigree, a sense of being a real, documented evil. Even though the movie's depiction has nothing to do with the book's boy on a dragon image, the name still provides a hook of authenticity. It makes the audience feel this is a genuine demon with a history. Second, the core experience, Lorraine Warren's encounter. She described a powerful, inhuman hooded figure in a swirling vortex. This happened during an investigation in England, likely the Enfield case. That encounter provided the emotional truth for the story. It was Lorraine's personal battle with a force she believed purely demonic. That gave the filmmakers a clear character conflict. The demon became a personal antagonist created to attack her faith. Finally, the visual archetype, the ghostly nun. Strongly linked to the Borley Rectory haunting. The tragic wandering nun of Borley was well known in paranormal circles. It provided a ready-made, familiar, and unsettling ghostly image. The filmmakers took that sad ghost and infused it with Lorraine's demonic element. They turned the nun from sorrowful spirit into a predatory monster. Then they moved the setting from England to a Gothic remote Romania, completing the transformation. Table of Contents, Part 3, Act 2, 7 sections. 1. The official inquiry begins. 2. Conflicting testimonies. 3. The voice in the walls. 4. Father Burke's burden. 5. Sister Irene's visions. 6. The Vatican's position. 7. Doubt and dogma. Section 1. The official inquiry begins. The story presented in the movie The Nun shows the Vatican taking swift action. A nun has committed suicide at a remote abbey in Romania. This is a grave sin in the eyes of the Church. It is an event that cannot be ignored. So they dispatch an investigator. This is where the character of Father Burke is introduced. He is not just any priest. He is a specialist, a man the Vatican trusts to handle delicate and dangerous situations. His job is to go to the Carsa monastery, assess the situation, determine if the ground is still holy. This is the official story, the one that drives the movie's plot forward. In reality, the process of a Vatican investigation is far more complex and secretive. The Church does not send priests into haunted monasteries based on a single report. An official inquiry into a supernatural event or a potential demonic influence is a slow and methodical process. It involves layers of bureaucracy. First, the local bishop would need to be notified. He would conduct his own preliminary investigation. This would involve interviewing witnesses, collecting evidence, speaking with other clergy in the area. Only if the local bishop finds the evidence compelling would he then report his findings to Rome. This process can take months or even years. The movie condenses this entire process for dramatic effect. It creates a sense of urgency. Father Burke is sent almost immediately, a lone warrior against the forces of darkness. This makes for a much more exciting story. It puts our hero directly in the path of danger from the very beginning. In the film, Burke is a man with a troubled past, an exorcism that went wrong. This personal history makes him both an expert and a vulnerable target for the demon. He is not just serving the church, he is seeking redemption for his own past failures. The real-life equivalent is less about a single hero and more about a committee. If the Vatican were to investigate a claim of demonic activity, it would be handled by the Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith. This is the oldest and most important department of the Roman Curia. They are the guardians of Catholic doctrine. Their team would include theologians, canon lawyers, historians, psychologists. The goal would be to rule out every possible natural explanation first. A full-scale demonic investigation is the absolute last resort, not the first response. Section 2. Conflicting testimonies. When Father Burke and Sister Irene arrive, they begin interviewing people at the monastery. The nuns who live there are terrified, engaged in constant prayer, a perpetual adoration to keep the evil at bay. Their testimony is filled with fear. They speak of a dark presence that has been in the abbey for centuries. Feeling watched, hearing whispers, seeing shadows move. Their accounts are emotional and steeped in religious belief. They are certain they are under attack from a powerful demon in the form of one of their own. But there are other witnesses too. Frenchie, the young villager who found the dead nun. His perspective is different. Not clergy, an outsider. Superstitious, knows the local legends. Scared but with folk wisdom. A connection to the world outside the cloister. Less theology, more raw, primal fear. He saw something he cannot explain. The mystery deepens. Witness accounts don't always line up. Nuns, a spiritual war. Frenchie, a spooky old abbey. Frenchie, a ghost. The church's records offer a third, dry perspective, focused on doctrine and law. The church's criteria for possession are strict. An unexplained noise is not enough. A feeling of dread is not enough. Evidence must be concrete and undeniable. Rarely is. In real investigations, conflicting testimony is the norm. One person sees a full-bodied apparition. Another sees nothing. One hears a clear voice. Another hears only the wind. People's beliefs, their fears, and their past experiences shape what they perceive. An investigator must sift these accounts for a common thread. Separate what people experienced from what they think they experienced. The real challenge, finding the signal in the noise of human fear and memory. Section 3. The voice in the walls. A common element in the movie's haunting is unexplained sounds. At the Kurza Monastery, the characters hear things that should not be there. They hear whispers in Latin, the ancient language of the church, coming from empty rooms. They hear a bell tolling when no one is ringing it. They hear footsteps echoing in empty hallways. These sounds are a classic tool of horror. They prey on our most basic senses. They suggest a presence that is unseen but always near. Famous hauntings like Borley Rectory and Enfield put sound at the center. People reported disembodied voices, growls, strange scratching noises coming from inside walls. At Borley, people heard a horse-drawn coach pull up, but outside, there was nothing. These events invade the safety of home. You can close your eyes, but it's much harder to close your ears. Church investigations treat these sounds with caution. The first step, find a natural cause. Old buildings make noises, pipes rattle, wood creaks, wind whistles through cracks, rats can scuttle in walls, birds can get trapped and flutter. An investigator, a priest, or a paranormal researcher must learn the mundane sounds. They must rule out every possibility before considering the supernatural. But sometimes the sounds are too specific to dismiss. People hear their own names called by unfamiliar voices. They hear conversations in empty rooms. Investigators use recording equipment to capture sounds. These are called electronic voice phenomena, or EVP. Recordings are faint and open to interpretation. One person might hear a threat, while another hears only static. The idea of capturing a voice from beyond keeps investigators listening in the dark. Section 4. Father Burke's Burden. Father Burke, the Vatican's investigator in The Nun, is not just a functionary. He is a man carrying a heavy weight on his soul. The movie reveals that he once performed an exorcism on a young boy named Daniel. The ritual was difficult and traumatic. In the end, the boy was freed from the demon, but he suffered injuries during the process and died a short time later. Father Burke has carried the guilt of this death ever since. He feels responsible. This past trauma makes him the perfect target for the demon Valak. The demon does not just attack him physically, it attacks him psychologically. This is a key element in how the mystery deepens. The evil in the monastery is not just a random force, it is intelligent and malicious. It learns its victim's weaknesses. It uses Father Burke's guilt against him. The demon creates visions of the boy, Daniel. It whispers accusations in his voice. It forces Burke to relive the worst moment of his life. This psychological torment is designed to break him, to shatter his faith, and to make him powerless. The haunting becomes a personal battleground for Burke's own soul. It is not just about saving the monastery, it is about saving himself. In real accounts of demonic oppression, this kind of psychological attack is a recurring theme. Ed and Lorraine Warren often spoke about this. They claimed that when they investigated a powerful, inhuman spirit, it would often learn things about them. It would bring up past regrets, fears, and insecurities. Lorraine believed that these entities feed on fear and negativity. By creating psychological distress, they make their victims weaker and more susceptible to influence. An exorcist or investigator must therefore have immense spiritual and mental fortitude. They must be a person of unwavering faith and a clear conscience. The official records of the Church also recognize this aspect. The rite of exorcism is not just a series of prayers, it is a spiritual confrontation. The exorcist is trained to resist the demon's lies and temptations. The demon will often try to bargain with the priest, or threaten them, or try to dredge up their past sins. The rite itself contains prayers for the protection of the exorcist. This shows that the Church understands the personal danger involved. It is a duel of wills. Father Burke's struggle in the movie is a dramatized version of this very real spiritual concept. While Father Burke is being tormented by his past, Sister Irene is experiencing something different. She is a novitiate, a young woman who has not yet taken her final vows. She is pure and full of faith, but she is also plagued by visions. Since she was a child, she has had strange, prophetic dreams. She has seen things that others cannot see. The Church has been skeptical of her abilities, telling her they are a product of mental illness. But her visions are the reason she was chosen for this mission. The Vatican hopes her unique sensitivity might help her perceive the true nature of the evil at Kurza. Irene's visions provide a different kind of evidence. They are not physical proof, like a thrown object or a captured voice. They are subjective, internal experiences. She sees the ghost of a nun walking the halls. She has visions of the Abbey's dark history, of the ritual that first unleashed the demons centuries ago. Her visions are like pieces of a puzzle. They are fragmented and confusing, but they offer clues that Father Burke, with his more traditional methods, cannot access. She represents the mystical, intuitive side of the investigation. He represents the formal, doctrinal side. The contrast between official records and personal, mystical experiences. The Church has always had a complicated relationship with mystics and visionaries. On one hand, Joan of Arc. On the other, Saint Teresa of Avila. But the Church has always been wary of false prophets and demonic deception. How do you tell the difference between a vision from God and a vision from the devil? This is a central question in the movie. Is Sister Irene a true visionary, or is her mind being manipulated by Valak? This tension reflects a real-world debate. In paranormal investigations, some researchers like Lorraine Warren rely on psychic abilities or intuition. They feel the presence of spirits, Other investigators are more focused on technology and physical data. They use EMF meters, temperature guns, and audio recorders. Often, these two approaches clash. The psychic might sense a sad spirit in a corner, while the tech-focused investigator finds nothing on their equipment. The film dramatizes this by pairing Burke and Irene. Their different methods must work together to solve the mystery. The movie portrays the Vatican as an organization that actively seeks out and fights demonic forces. It has a secret army of specialists like Father Burke, ready to be deployed to the front lines of a spiritual war. This casts the church as a sort of supernatural intelligence agency. The idea of hidden archives is exciting. The idea of classified reports is exciting. The idea of clandestine operations is exciting. It suggests the church knows more about the darkness in the world than it admits. It's a powerful, popular image in fiction, but the real Vatican's official position is far more reserved and skeptical. The church believes in the devil and demons, but it doesn't attribute every strange event to them. The official process is designed to be extremely difficult. Before an exorcism can be approved, the subject must undergo thorough medical and psychological evaluation. The church wants to ensure the person isn't suffering from a mental illness, such as schizophrenia, dissociative identity disorder. Most cases are found to have natural causes. Official records would look very different from a movie script. They'd be filled with medical reports, psychological profiles, detailed, dispassionate interviews. Long sections would debate points of canon law and theological doctrine. Authorities would contrast events with historical precedents. They'd compare reported phenomena to establish signs of demonic activity like speaking in unknown languages, exhibiting superhuman strength, showing an aversion to holy objects. It's a slow, academic process, not a fast-paced thriller. The contrast between exciting oral hauntings and dry, cautious official records is stark. Oral stories grow and change with each telling. They become more dramatic, more frightening. A faint shadow that was once a faint shadow becomes a terrifying, solid figure. A scratching sound becomes a demonic voice. Official records aim to be static and objective. They strip away emotion and drama, focusing on verifiable facts. The truth often sits between the vivid story and the sterile report. As the investigation progresses, the line between belief and doubt blurs. Father Burke, the man of dogma, begins to doubt. He leans on his books. He leans on his training. But the evil he faces defies the rules. He's forced to confront the limits of his knowledge. He stands for the church's official doctrine, struggling to cope. His journey becomes humbling, trusting beyond formal understanding. Father Burke and Sister Irene back to back in the dark abbey. Sister Irene is pure belief. Her belief is intuitive and personal. She's been taught to doubt her visions. The church has taught her skepticism. Now she must learn to trust herself. Her visions are a gift, not sickness. He goes certainty, doubt, to a new kind of faith. She goes doubt to certainty. The conflict between doubt and belief is the core. Is this truly a demon, or mass hysteria born of isolation and fear? Are the visions real, or hallucinations? Every supernatural event meets doubt. Cross on a grave turns upside down, or maybe it was loose. Radio turns on by itself, or maybe a faulty wire. Strange photo, trick of the light. Weird audio, random noise. Personal testimony, misremembered dream. Belief requires a leap of faith. The investigator must choose, believe the extraordinary, or retreat to ordinary explanations. This choice, doubt versus dogma, defines the experience. The journey from a vague paranormal claim to a full-fledged movie monster involves many creative choices. One of the most important was giving the entity a name. In The Conjuring 2, the demon torments Lorraine Warren, but its identity is a mystery. The climax hinges on Lorraine learning the demon's name, Valak. By speaking its name, she gains power over it and condemns it back to hell. Classic folklore. Knowing a spirit's true name grants control. Filmmakers used that belief to craft a satisfying ending. But naming Valak did more than serve the plot. It gave the monster an anchor in the real world. Pulled from a 17th century grimoire, the name gave the demon a sense of history. Less like a writer's invention, more like an ancient evil documented for centuries. Audiences could go online and look up the name, finding entries in the Lesser Key of Solomon. That discovery added chilling authenticity. Fiction and reality began to blur, making the fear stronger. The spread was rapid. In the internet age, a factoid can circle the globe in minutes. Movie fans, horror enthusiasts, paranormal buffs, sharing on social media, forums, blogs. Valak became a hashtag, memes followed. The story turned into viral trivia, the name detached from its obscure origin. Most people didn't read the grimoire. They read the headline, "The demon from the movie is real." That simplified message built the legend. Naming was the first step in making a modern myth. The name was a hook. It was a key to a deeper, frightening world. It implied the filmmakers had done their homework, had tapped a genuine source of evil. Valak's legend grew, not just a film character, but an entity with supposed history. The name was the seed, and the internet the fertile ground that let it sprout far beyond the movie. The visual design of a monster is crucial to its success. Lorraine Warren's real-life claim was about a swirling vortex with a hooded figure at its center. This is a spooky and unsettling image, but it is also vague. It lacks a clear, definable shape that can be easily marketed and remembered. For a movie, especially a horror movie, you need a monster with a face. You need an image that can be put on a poster and will stick in the audience's mind long after they have left the theater. The creative team behind the Conjuring universe understood this perfectly. They needed to give this hooded figure a terrifying form. The idea to make the demon a nun was a last-minute stroke of genius by director James Wan. Initially, the demon in The Conjuring 2 was conceived as a more traditional, horned creature. But Wan felt this was too generic. He wanted something that would strike a deeper, more personal blow against Lorraine Warren's Catholic faith. What could be more blasphemous than a demon wearing the sacred habit of a nun? This concept twisted a symbol of purity, sacrifice, holiness into a mask for ultimate evil. It was a perfect perversion designed to create maximum psychological horror. Once the decision was made, the design came together quickly. The stark contrast of the black and white habit was visually striking. They made the face deathly pale, like a corpse. They gave it piercing, predatory yellow eyes that seemed to glow in the dark. The final touch was the sharp, almost shark-like teeth that were revealed when it screamed. The result was a monster that was both recognizably human and terrifyingly inhuman. It was an image that was simple, iconic, deeply disturbing. It was the perfect face for a new horror franchise. This visual transformation was a key step in the rise of the legend. The nun was no longer a vague shadow. It was a specific, unforgettable image of terror. This image spread like wildfire through popular culture. It became the subject of nightmares, Halloween costumes, internet memes. The face of the nun became synonymous with the name Valak. The original lore of the child on a dragon was almost completely forgotten. The movie's creation had become more real in the public imagination than the historical source material. The power of a strong visual had overwritten centuries of mythology. While the inspiration for the demonic nun came from events in England and the United States, the filmmakers made a crucial decision to set the spin-off movie, The Nun, in Romania. This choice of location was not random. It was a deliberate move to tap into a rich vein of Gothic horror tradition. Romania, and specifically Transylvania, is tied to vampires, ancient castles, and dark folklore. It is the land of Dracula. The filmmakers borrowed a century's worth of spooky atmosphere. The movie uses its Romanian setting to great effect. The story is set at the remote Karsa Monastery. It's a real 13th century Cistercian site, now mostly ruins. The film reimagines it as a massive, foreboding Gothic abbey, surrounded by mist-shrouded forests and a graveyard of crooked crosses. The setting becomes a character. Long, dark corridors, damp stone cellars, echoing chapels, all build dread and isolation. The characters aren't in a haunted house, they're trapped in a haunted land. The writers weave in local folklore and superstitions. Frenchie acts as a guide. He talks about local beliefs, the fear of the woods, and stories passed down for generations. The film uses ancient primal imagery, crows, snakes, and the ever-present cross as a weapon and as a target of defilement. Latin whispers and rituals amplify an ancient evil, tied to the foundations of the church and the land. Moving the story to Romania elevated it from ghost story to Gothic epic. The demonic nun is placed in a timeless landscape of fear. The blend of new and old feels bigger, more rooted in history than a suburban tale. The Romanian setting became the perfect stage for Valac, a dark fairy tale for the modern era. The creation of the nun was a kind of alchemy. It was a process of taking different elements and combining them to create something new and powerful. The alchemists of old sought to turn lead into gold. The filmmakers sought to turn fragments of stories into pure horror. They took the lead of old demonology texts, the personal accounts of a paranormal investigator, the archetype of a ghostly nun, and a Gothic setting. They mixed them all together in the cauldron of Hollywood production. What emerged was cinematic gold, a horror icon that terrified audiences and made millions at the box office. This process works because it targets different parts of our psyche. The use of the real demon named Valac appeals to our intellect and curiosity. It makes us feel like we are in on a secret, that we are learning about something real. The story of Lorraine Warren's encounter appeals to our empathy. We feel her terror, and it makes the demon feel like a genuine threat. The visual of the nun appeals to our deep-seated cultural and religious symbolism. It corrupts something we see as safe and holy, which creates a profound sense of unease. The social and psychological factors that intensify fear are also a huge part of this alchemy. Humans are social creatures. When we see others reacting with fear, it can trigger a similar response in us. This is why watching a horror movie in a packed theater can be so much more intense than watching it alone. The shared screams, gasps, and nervous laughter create a collective atmosphere of terror. After the movie, this social contagion continues online. People share their experiences, post about their nightmares, and dare their friends to watch it. The legend grows through this shared experience. This is how a movie monster transcends the screen. It becomes a part of our cultural conversation. The fear is no longer just about what happens in the dark theater. It is about the stories we tell each other afterward. It is about the image that pops into your head when you are walking down a dark hallway late at night. The filmmakers did not just create a monster, they created a vessel for our collective anxieties. The alchemy of fear turns a fictional character into a real and present feeling, a legend that takes on a life of its own. As the legend of the nun grew, so did the debate surrounding it. For every person who was thrilled by the idea of a real demon, there was another who sought to debunk it. This is a natural part of how legends evolve. The story is strengthened not just by belief, but also by skepticism. The tension between plausible natural explanations and extraordinary supernatural claims is what keeps the story interesting. It allows people to engage with the myth on their own terms, as a believer, a skeptic, or somewhere in between. Skeptics offer many plausible explanations. For Lorraine Warren's hooded figure encounter, they might point to psychological factors. The human brain is wired to see faces and figures in random patterns, pareidolia. In a high-stress situation, in a dimly lit environment, the mind could easily create a figure out of shadows and fear. Auditory hallucinations or misinterpreting ambient sounds could account for the whispers and voices. These are not dismissals of her experience, but alternative ways of understanding it. For the broader historical claims, like the haunting of Borley Rectory, natural explanations are also plentiful. Old houses make strange noises. Drafts can cause doors to open and close. Underground streams can create vibrations and sounds. Many of the photographs of the Borley nun are now widely considered to be fakes or misinterpretations of light and shadow. The story of the murdered nun being bricked up in the walls has no actual historical evidence to support it. It is likely a piece of local folklore that became attached to the house over time. However, these natural explanations rarely satisfy everyone. For believers, the sheer number of witnesses and the consistency of their accounts point to something more. They argue that while one or two events could be explained away, the entire pattern of activity is too complex to be a coincidence. They see the skepticism itself as a kind of willful blindness. The supernatural claims persist because they offer a more compelling and emotionally resonant explanation for experiences that feel deeply real to the people who have them. The story of Valak thrives in this space between what can be proven and what must be believed. A story once told does not remain static. It travels from person to person, and with each telling, it can change. This is the social contagion of a ghost story. Rumor. Media. After The Conjuring 2 was released, the movie hit theaters. News outlets and entertainment websites began running articles. Example headlines: The True Story of the Demonic Nun. These articles often presented the flimsiest connections as hard evidence. The movie's plot, Lorraine Warren's claims, the demonology of Valak. All merged into one sensational narrative. Accuracy took a back seat to clickability and shareability. That media coverage shaped public understanding of the tale. People who hadn't seen the movie began hearing about Valak. Facebook, Twitter, Reddit. Users would share the articles, adding their own fearful comments. The story became a modern urban legend. It was told and retold, with details being exaggerated or invented along the way. Someone might post that their friend's cousin went to a real monastery in Romania and saw the nun's ghost. These personal anecdotes, whether true or not, made the legend feel more immediate and believable. Religious interpretation also played a role. For some viewers with strong religious beliefs, the movie was not just entertainment. It was seen as a depiction of a very real spiritual war between good and evil. They saw the character of Valak as a representation of the devil's work in the modern world. Sermons might be preached about the dangers of demonic influence, using the movie as a contemporary example. This religious framework gave the story a profound sense of gravity and significance. It validated the fear as a legitimate spiritual concern, not just a reaction to a scary movie. Media hype, rumor, religious belief. Together they created a perfect storm. A fictional character was transformed into a cultural phenomenon. The fear of the nun became contagious. It was no longer just about the 2 hours you spent in a movie theater. The story seeped into the real world, carried on the currents of conversation and digital media. It became a shared cultural reference point for horror. The legend was no longer owned by the filmmakers. It was owned by everyone who told it, shared it, and feared it. Section 7. Valak. A modern myth is born. Ultimately, the story of Valak, the demonic nun, became a fully formed modern myth. It has all the classic ingredients. It has a powerful, memorable villain. It has roots in ancient lore and alleged real-life events. It has a compelling narrative of good versus evil. And most importantly, it has captured the public imagination. A perfect example of how myths are made today. Not over generations, but fast, fueled by cinema, accelerated by the internet. We can trace its path. It began with the raw material, historical demon Valak, legends of the Borley nun, Lorraine Warren's experiences. Filmmakers mixed those pieces into a cohesive story. They gave the myth its iconic face and its gothic setting. They made it terrifying and emotionally engaging. They built a world that felt fantastic yet disturbingly real. This was the act of creation. Then came the audience. Mass media and social networks amplified it. They consumed it, reacted to it, and then shared it. They searched true story online. They made reviews, reaction videos, memes, fan theories. They brought it into life with costumes and nightmares. The audience helped the myth spread, a legend born from creator and consumer. Even in our tech age, we still want myths. We crave darkness, faces of fear, tests of the unknown. Valak is a monster for our times, a product of history, a creation of Hollywood, and a mirror of our fascination. The myth is complete. We have now traveled through the dark hallways of history and Hollywood to understand the origin of the nun. We started with the terrifying image of a pale-faced, yellow-eyed sister, and worked our way backward. We have seen that this modern horror icon is not a single, simple creation. Instead, it is a complex tapestry woven from many different threads. It is a product of ancient demonology, Old English ghost stories, personal claims of paranormal investigators, and the brilliant, market-savvy minds of filmmakers. The nun is a monster built from pieces of our shared cultural past, reassembled into something new, deeply frightening for a modern audience. The key facts of our investigation are clear. The name Valak is real, taken from a 17th century grimoire, but the description of a child on a two-headed dragon bears no resemblance to the movie's villain. The idea of a ghostly nun haunting a religious site is a classic trope, most famously associated with the Borley Rectory in England, a tale of tragedy, not of demonic evil. The emotional core comes from Lorraine Warren's alleged encounter with a hooded, inhuman entity, which she believed was a demon attacking her faith. These separate elements were the raw materials waiting for a storyteller to find them. Yet, even with these facts laid bare, mysteries certainly remain. What exactly did Lorraine Warren experience during her investigations? Was it a genuine encounter with a non-human entity? Or the product of a highly stressful situation? A mind primed to see the supernatural? What was the true source of the legends at Borley Rectory? Were they just the creaks and groans of an old house amplified by folklore? Or did a truly restless spirit walk its grounds? These are questions that historical records and skeptical analysis cannot fully answer. They reside in the gray area between measurable fact and personal experience, a space where belief takes root. This is why the image of the nun endures so powerfully. It is more than just a jump scare in a movie. It represents the perfect fusion of the known and the unknown. It has just enough connection to real history and real events to make us question our disbelief. The filmmakers gave our vague, primal fears a specific and terrifying face. The image of a corrupted holy figure is potent, striking at the heart of our assumptions about good and evil, safety and danger. It is an image that is simple, iconic, and designed to linger in the mind long after the lights come back on. The phrase "based on a true story" is one of the most powerful tools in a horror filmmaker's arsenal. It acts as a bridge between the safe world of the movie theater and the unsettling possibilities of our own reality. When we see those words on screen, our relationship with the film changes. We are no longer just passive viewers of a fantasy. We become jurors weighing a strange and terrifying piece of evidence. The story asks us not just to be scared, but to consider the possibility, however remote, that this could happen. It blurs the line between entertainment and a warning, and in that blurry space, fear grows exponentially. In the case of the nun, this claim must be understood in its proper context. It does not mean that in 1952, a priest and a novitiate actually fought a demon named Valak in a Romanian monastery. It is not a documentary. Instead, true story refers to the inspiration itself. It's the story of Lorraine Warren's claims, the historical demon Valak, and the cultural archetype of the ghostly nun. The film is a fictional narrative using these real-world elements as building blocks. The quoted truth is not in the plot, but in the pieces used to construct that plot. This is creative license, common across genres. Historical dramas often condense timelines, invent conversations, and create composite characters. The same principle applies here. Filmmakers took the feeling of Lorraine Warren's Terror, the name from an old book, and the look of a classic ghost, and synthesized them into a single, cohesive narrative. The goal is emotional truth, not historical accuracy. The film wants to make you feel the dread people in the original stories claim to feel. Revisiting the claim gives a more nuanced answer. Is The Nun based on a true story? Yes, but not in the way a casual viewer might assume. It's based on a collection of true claims, true historical texts, and true folkloric traditions. The movie is the dramatic result of a long storytelling process, where real anxieties and ancient myths are filtered through a creative lens. Understanding this doesn't make it less scary. If anything, it reveals the deep, tangled roots from which our modern monsters grow. In the end, the story of The Nun is about more than just a demon or a ghost. It is about the enduring power of stories themselves. For centuries, humans have gathered around campfires, in libraries, and now in movie theaters. These stories serve a vital purpose. They allow us to explore our deepest fears from a safe distance. They give a name and a shape to anxieties that haunt our understanding. The fear of death, the fear of evil, the fear of the dark, the fear that our faith is not strong enough to protect us. Valak, in the form of the demonic nun, is a perfect mirror for these modern fears. The character embodies the corruption of institutions we are meant to trust. It shows an evil that hides behind a mask of holiness. It represents a force that attacks our bodies, our minds, our souls, using our memories and our guilt as weapons. The nun is a monster that feels personal, intelligent, deeply malicious. It is not just a creature, it's a predator that knows our weaknesses, reflecting our insecurities back at us with terrifying clarity. Our journey has taken us from a dark hallway in a movie to dusty pages of history and back again. We've separated facts from fiction, tracing the alchemy that turned scattered legends into a global horror phenomenon. We've seen how belief, memory, and the power of a good story can combine to create a myth that feels more real than reality. The legend of the nun is a testament to our need for monsters. We create them, or perhaps we discover them, to make sense of a chaotic, frightening world. Whether Valak is a real entity from hell or a fabrication of Hollywood matters less than what the story reveals about us. It shows the line between truth and myth is often perspective. Our fears of a demon in a monastery or the darkness in our own hearts are a defining part of being human. The nun holds up a mirror, and in its horrifying reflection, we see not just a monster, but the shadows of our own imagination, where the scariest stories feel true.